Hello, my name is Donna Williams and I wanted to talk a bit about mastectomy and breast cancer. So in June last year I was about a size 14C in a bra cup, and I was diagnosed with a breast cancer that was quite fast developing and had a very high return rate to the same breast and a very high return rate to the remaining breast. So most breast cancers start with a type of cell that has only a 30% malignancy rate, only grows 0.5 centimetre a year, and the return rate is around 5% to the same breast. The type of cells that mine started up with are called cometocarcinoma cells, and these tend to be very fast developing, have 100% malignancy, up to a 50% return rate to the same breast, and up to a 38% return to the remaining breast. So my choice was to not go for having a lumpectomy, but to have mastectomy, which meant that essentially I came home with one breast and nothing in the other place whatsoever. I chose not to have reconstruction, and that wasn't really offered to me. I was told, that reconstruction was an option and that they'd done some skin sparing to allow me to have a reconstruction later. And I thought, hold on, I never said anything about reconstruction. Why does everyone think everybody wants reconstruction? Well, a lot of women are very happy with reconstruction. They want to return, if you like, to something resembling their old body. Some women who've had a single mastectomy will have a reconstruction that, of course, will sit differently to their original breast, because it's maybe made from muscle tissue. It may be made from extra sort of tissue around their tummy or from their thighs. And so those types of cells and things are not going to have the same kind of form as your usual breast. And of course you'll probably have lost the nipple. So women with mastectomy who have reconstruction will often have a nipple tattooed on, or may just go without one. But in any case, for women who have a reconstruction with one breast, they may find that they never look, if you like, the same as each other, that sort of thing. And for some women that's good enough, and they're okay with that. And for some women, they have had reconstruction with one breast and they've felt that they went through a lot of additional operations to have it and still didn't necessarily feel right with it as their body. For me, I have immune deficiencies, which means going back for extra operations is a higher risk. I also understood that with estrogen receptive cancer, which is what mine was, that your fat cells can produce estrogen. So taking fat cells from some other part of my body and putting those in there didn't appeal to me any more than the breast tissue, which would have attracted the return of the cometocarcinoma cells that started my whole saga in the first place. So when I went home, of course, I had this scooped out section of my chest, which now had no breast tissue. So one of the things I guess I want to say is that in the days when I had a breast there, it was we get taught as females, you can't just touch that area, that's somehow sexual. Well, once you don't actually have any breast there, suddenly it's just your chest wall. So one of the great freedoms that I found was that I just didn't feel that old palaver about whether or not I touch my chest. It's my chest. And at first things were quite numb, where they'd taken away every bit of breast tissue. So I don't look like a nicely sculpted male chest, which is what I had thought that I'd end up with. I have a mastectomy chest, so it's a little bit concave. It's not dramatically concave. And that was very hard to adjust to, because it didn't look like I was just going back to my flat-chested self of age 10 to 11, the original model before I had breasts. I saw that I looked, in a sense, like a scarred woman, a mastectomied woman. But what was good was that I had the sensation, or progressively, it didn't feel so numb. I could feel that I'm touching my chest wall, that I'm still here, that my chest felt as real as my arms felt real. And after going through not just mastectomy, but chemotherapy, hormone therapy has followed on from that, the ability to relate to my body was really important. And so the problem was that I was then going back for a second mastectomy, but first I had to do chemo, and the second mastectomy wouldn't be until the following year. So I would have to spend around 6 months as a one-breasted woman. For women who intend to go forward as a one-breasted woman, they often will wear a bra with a prosthesis in the bra that's basically like an artificial limb for the breast that's been removed. So it's an insert, and if you're going to have the second breast off, then you're not really going to move forward as a person with a bra that's got 2 inserts in it, so that it didn't make sense to go around wearing a bra with an insert in it and then suddenly appear in your community as a person who'd lost both of her breasts suddenly. So it's part of not just about your view of yourself before others, but your view of yourself in your own space, in your own world, and how do you sit with this. So I didn't wear a bra. I didn't wear a prosthesis. Sometimes I wore a sports bra, and the reason why is because I call this one here, this is my mastectomy side, Flatsy Patsy. So after mastectomy, I called this one here Flatsy Patsy, and I'm happy to sort of show, well, that's sort of, that's where I'm at. So it's Kira Knightley. Thank you, Kira. And thank you, Sinead O'Connor, for making me feel good about having a bald head and a flat chest, which is about as good as it gets when you're going to deal with breast cancer. So I really wanted to find examples of women who felt they looked good with the personalities that they had, and with bodies that were perhaps, not doing the standard hair breast thing. So that's my mastectomy side. And then, of course, I had the problem of Ruby. Now, Ruby doesn't look that big, and some people compliment me or whatever you want to say and say, I really couldn't tell. But, of course, with a bra, Ruby was bigger. Not as big as some women, and obviously a woman with a much larger breast might feel far more challenged going around as a one-breasted woman than I might. At least I can wear a sports bra, flatten out the remaining breast, and as long as my clothes are flat enough and you're not looking too much, you probably wouldn't notice. So the other thing I found was it really depended on what kind of clothing I chose. So I also didn't want to wear the sports bra a lot of the time, because in summer it's really hot and clingy. If you've had nodes out, and I had the sentinel node out on the first side, then you can have a lot of lymph problems, just general difficulty, especially if you're going through chemo, feeling pretty toxic. You just don't necessarily want anything grabbing, clinging, climbing, pulling, constricting. You want to get into your body. You want to grow into your body. You want you want to be free in that movement with your arms, and not cause constriction to the flow of lymph, particularly if you've had nodes out, for example. So I did feel self-conscious. One thing that really helped was to know that the view in the mirror is the view that other people see. When a woman looks down and they've got, one completely flat side and one side that is coming out with a breast, it looks really asymmetrical, and it's easy to become self-conscious and think that's the view other people have. Actually, they are not seeing you that way. They're seeing you from the front, and depending on your clothing, they probably won't even see. If you wear black, you're not going to get that shadow at the side of the remaining breast. And so I have a lot of black clothing. If you wear patterned clothing, like this dress is very highly patterned, it's not easy to at all see the shadow where you've got the curve of the breast. The style of clothing, if I had clothes that, that were, that were clingy, or that had a kind of breast line around there, or that had, a very scooped sort of thing where a cleavage should be, or a V that's designed to draw attention to the two breasts that I don't have, then that's going to be a problem. So I found clothing that was either black or fairly dark in color and highly patterned, that had designs that allowed space, allowed me to go braless, that had enough interest. I mean, this one's got sort of buttons, but I also have clothing that has a kind of yoke here and a bit of gather, so that things then fall from there, rather than things with clear breast lines, or the sort of pleating thing, or anything that's made for, I call them breasted clothing. But the other thing that I found is, of course, from the side, as you can see, that's my flat one, and that's ruby without a bra, and even from the side, there's this feeling that people can see, that's your breast, and they will see that there you don't have one. But in fact, most people, if they do see your breast, they presume there's one on the other side, and if they see it from this side, they presume there's one on the other side. So even from a side view, going braless with one breast is probably not as obvious as it feels to you, certainly looking down. The other thing that I got used to doing was wearing my scarves as if that was my old breast. So this became my replacement hair. So I felt like I could change my hair color every day. I could coordinate my hair color with my clothing. Even with little short tie-up hats, I'd have a little ponytail. So it was like one that would be around here, and then I'd have my long ponytail, and then I had some that had a kind of bun thing at the back. But by wearing my scarf with this feeling of something here, it gave me the feeling that I had something on either side, and so I could go around as a one-breasted person and forget about the self-consciousness that I didn't have one on the other side. And when I felt particularly self-conscious, and there's probably nothing makes you feel so self-conscious as having gone through breast cancer. It's a big jolt to the whole, I guess, identity, indoctrination, gender sort of thing. I mean, and women reinforce it. I've had women who overtly feel sorry for me, which has been really really difficult. I don't want people to come and tell me they feel sorry for me, or stuff like that. So, as if that's really going to do it for me. So what I have this really great mesh over, sort of like it's a waistcoaty thing. And what this was really great for was that it hid any shadowing that I had on plain coloured tops, or any lighter tops. So I could wear this and the shadowing issue would pretty much disappear. And then if I was still even further self-conscious, I took some little ribbons, I made little loops and tied them back through, and I just leave them as lace-ups on either side. And if I feel like it, I lace up my little waistcoat, and then I've got that over the top of my dress, and there's my scarf, and pretty much then I feel confident, no matter which way I'm turning, that it looks stylish, but everything is kind of obscured. I'm not hiding my femininity. I feel like I'm celebrating my femininity, and I feel really positive about that. So I was really excited to see that there were some websites that are starting to reinforce for women that it is okay to make a choice about going breastless. And I will be having my second mastectomy this year, which is actually in 4 weeks' time. And after this, I'll be, I guess, making a transition again to a different type of clothing that is not necessarily for a one-breasted woman who is going braless, but for somebody who has now moved into having no breasts. And so I look forward to showing you some of the things that I'll wear for that as well. So I hope you got some tips from this and some validation for those of you who are weighing up whether reconstruction is financially worth it, physically worth it, psychologically worth it, and how you're going to feel about going breastless. Sexually, I guess, is the whole other side of it, and some people feel much more confident having a reconstruction on that side of things. I feel more intimate because I can put my real chest, or my original model, up against the chest of my partner and feel their heartbeat. And because I haven't been altered other than having the breast tissue removed. So I feel like things are as in place and original as they ever were, in a sense, or certainly as they ever were until I was 10 to 11 years old. So that's quite good. And it really does, I think I'm really lucky. I have a partner who absolutely adores me and reinforces that he sees me as a beautiful person, and it's the beauty of my personality. And of course there's a whole lot of everything else left, but he actually says that that my mastectomy chest is beautiful to him because it reminds him of what I would do to stay alive and continue to be here in the really cherished relationship that we have. So for him, it's not an ugly scarring kind of thing. It's evidence of the sacrifice that I made with my body in order to have a longer life. So I think that's sort of romantic and beautiful. And I don't think he's heroic because he thinks like that. I just think some people are perhaps a bit more soulful. I don't know. Less about the standard, or maybe it's something you adapt to as well. I mean, when you're first a person with a mastectomy and you don't know how to do touch and stuff with this new body, especially like a one-breasted body, how do you navigate that? And you've got to have a laugh about it, and you've got to explore that with your partner, I guess, rather than all getting freaked out and projecting your insecurity and stuff. And I had plenty of that too. So I hope that was a little bit of things towards getting to grips with living breastless. Thank you. Thanks for listening.